This segment of Quality Digest's Virtual Test and Measurement Expo is sponsored by FARO, the world's most trusted source for 3D measurement and imaging solutions.
When we were at IMTS a couple of weeks ago, we saw a pretty amazing in its simplicity product from FARO Technologies called the 8-axis Quantum ScanArm. And I won't steal its thunder because you're going to watch a demo that we recorded earlier here in the studio in just 1 second. I won't steal its thunder other than to say you're most likely going to be like me and think, this is such an obvious solution to something that every single portable arm operator has faced. Why did somebody only just now invent it? I mean, you'll see what I mean. I'm not kidding. When we saw this at IMTS, I actually giggled the first time I saw it. You know what I mean? Have you ever seen somebody present something to you and it's so obvious you just laugh?
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, duh.
Yeah.
I mean, why? That is what I laughed about when I was there. It's the 8-axis and it's brilliant. Watch this demo recorded earlier this week in our studio with Raphael Asbun of FARO Technologies. So Raphael, what are you going to show us today?
So today I have the new FARO 8-axis. Last time I was here, I showed you guys the updated Quantum S arm, right? And all the marvelous updates that were part of that release. Throughout FARO's history, we've always focused on improving the arm, but they've always been iterative improvements, right? We've improved portability, accuracy, ergonomics, ease of use. Throughout the years, it's always become a great product. But with the 8th axis, this is a truly revolutionary improvement in terms of how you use the arm and its capabilities. So this is the 8th axis. It's got similar technology, a circular encoder that's the same encoder that's at the base of the arm. And then there's this plate that sits on top, and it'll mount, and all the same mounting options you have for the arm, tripods and granite cart mounts and things like that. So
this is called an 8th axis because it adds one more axis to the 7-axis Quantum S, right?
Exactly,
Okay.
yeah.
So essentially it's just a rotary encoder with a plate on top.
Yeah, it's a very simple concept, right? And there's not much you need to learn.
Took years.
Yeah, right. Finally,
somebody thought, hey, I know.
Yeah, exactly. So that we're really happy with this product in terms of the tests we've done, and even me, operating an arm for the last 3 years. This 8th axis is such a great product and so easy to use. If you already know how to use an arm, there's nothing new you need to learn.
Sure.
All you got to do is connect it and do a quick compensation. So that's simply resting the probe on the table and doing a few rotations.
Okay.
And then that will tell the arm where that 8th axis is in space, right, and tie that into the coordinate system of the arm.
Gotcha. All right. And that's all there was to it.
That's all there is to it. Yeah. And as long as your software is up to date with the latest drivers and the latest firmware, you can take advantage of the 8th axis system. So throw a part on here so we can do some probing and you can see what that's like. Okay.
Now this looks like you put it on about a 10-inch plate that comes with the 8th axis. That's part of it.
Yeah, there's an option to get this is a 250 millimeter plate, around 10 inches, right? And then there's also a 500 millimeter plate. Okay. We also have fixture kits that will allow you to, for example, prop your parts up, or also allow you to put bigger parts on here.
Right.
Yeah. So you can.
So I'm assuming we're looking at a smaller part right now, but I'm guessing that part of the real interest in this is going to be for putting large parts on it and being able to rotate the large parts and so forth.
There is a huge benefit with larger parts and as well as small parts. We've seen an average of 20 to 30% reduction in the amount of time it takes to inspect and scan even smaller parts. Okay. Right. So I'll show you what some probing looks like. So normally, you would just be dancing around your part as you probe, but here. You can just rotate the
that's
table.
Interesting. Okay, I see what you're saying. So right, what you did just then, I was watching, is you're essentially almost holding the probe still, and then you're just rotating the part underneath it.
Exactly. Okay. So it's a very simple concept, but it helps. You would imagine logically thinking that adding another axis to the arm would reduce the accuracy, but what we found is since you're moving the arm a lot less, these encoders tend to move a lot less throughout their volume, and you're mainly moving, as you rotate your part, just this one encoder, you actually maintain and sometimes see an increase in the accuracies you can attain.
Okay. So I would kind of I was thinking mostly large parts, but now that you're showing me, I can see that there's really some advantage here even for smaller parts, just in terms of ergonomics.
Definitely,
Yeah,
right.
okay. And when, like you see, then that translates to speed in terms of how fast you can do your inspection.
Exactly,
Okay.
yep.
Yeah.
So here we're in CAM2 2018, that's FARO's inspection software. This will work with current third-party softwares as long as they support the FARO ARM. You can integrate
Okay, so
the
there's
8th
nothing
axis.
to third-party software, if it already supports a FARO ARM, it doesn't know that you've added an 8th axis. I mean, it looks just the same to it, right?
Exactly,
Okay.
yep. That's one of the beauties of the system as well. It's how simple it is.
Okay.
Right. So here we've aligned to the CAD model. So if I go to measure some features, you'll see my probe kind of live on the screen there.
Okay, so
right.
looking at the screen.
So as I rotate, you'll see that the part stays relatively the same, but
Okay.
I'm not moving the probe though, but it's on the screen there, it's moving.
Okay, so kind of related to what I just said, the software doesn't know the difference between the part being stationary and you moving around it versus
Correct.
you being stationary and rotating the part. To the
Exactly.
software, it's the same thing. Right?
Exactly, right.
Okay, all right. Okay, that makes a lot more sense then. All right. So this is just a clever way to give you that 8th axis without really having to make major changes in software, and
Correct.
third-party people are probably going, "Oh, that's awesome."
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and like I said, it's very simple. If your employees or customers already know how to use the FARO ARM, then it's very intuitive to integrate the 8th axis. It's
Okay.
one of the beauties of the update. So what we'll do is, like you mentioned before, we'll throw something a little bigger on here
Okay.
to really show the capabilities of the ARM. And
And I'll get that. Our director's son brought in something kind of cool. Just bring that in. This is the
there you go.
what's this called? The Y wing? Is that what that's called?
We're gonna have some fun
One
with
of
it
the
now.
Star Wars ships. Very cool. I know you Star Wars guys out there are going, he has it all wrong.
Yeah, this is actually a really cool application, scanning toys. So actually, we're using the FARO Blue laser at the moment.
Okay.
A new announcement and product release is the FARO Prism, and that's our new color capturing laser scanner.
Okay.
So that's great for product development applications, right? If you're trying to make, like, for example, a part like this, if you wanted to capture all the color detail, you could then go and like 3D print something with the
Okay.
color data.
Now, is that just a laser scanner with a color camera mounted
Correct.
top, superimposing the data, or what's?
So the way that one works, it's a green light. So here we have a blue light, right?
Okay.
But with that green light, there's a camera integration where it captures color data as well as the 3D point values,
Okay.
and assigns RGB values to those points based on the scan data, on the data you
Okay,
capture.
so it's not taking a color image and overlaying a point cloud on the image. It's actually assigning a
RGB
color
values.
to each of those points that it's scanned.
Correct. Yep. So
Wow,
each
okay.
individual point, the entire point cloud will have color values.
Okay.
Yep. So
Oh,
that's
interesting, okay.
that's a kind of a new development. It's kind of like at the point where color TVs came out. Right now we have color scanning, which is really,
And
really cool.
what seems to be the interest in this right now?
In the product design market, we've seen
Okay.
the most interest. And then I believe the metrology applications will kind of come as more people get access to the equipment
Okay.
and figure out what they can do with it.
And tell us, for those who might not be familiar with the Quantum S, what are some of the features, the accuracy, all that
Yeah.
sort of stuff?
So with the probe, you can get under 1,000 accuracy readings. And then with the scan data, you can get under 2,000.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the 2.5 meter arm. They come in 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, and a 4 meter arm.
Okay.
One of the biggest advantages to adding the 8th axis is that you can effectively scan bigger parts with a smaller arm. As you get up to scale in terms of arm size, you'll lose a little bit of your accuracy.
Okay.
So it's a major improvement to be able to maintain accuracies of the smaller arms on bigger parts. Adding the 8th axis adds around 50% scanning volume to the capabilities of the FARO arm.
Okay. Now, if we switch over to the software here, one thing I'm seeing that I don't think I've seen on CAM2 before is these red areas. What are those indicating to me here on the
So
screen?
the CAM2, that's a new feature of CAM2 2018. It's evaluating the angle at which you captured the data.
Okay.
So it's still showing the data as it captured, but the red is indicating that there's a better angle you can capture it at. And once you capture it in that angle, you'll see it turn gray.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So essentially, this is a a real-time tool to tell the operator whether or not they have the optimal angle
Exactly.
for the laser scan.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's giving you real-time feedback
Yeah.
in terms of the quality of the data you're
Yeah,
capturing.
and then like you said, if it's red, you can just simply go back over it at a better angle and fill in those spots.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Oh, okay. Now this works with. Does this work only with the Quantum S?
Yes, it works
Okay.
with the latest Quantum S, M, and E arms. It currently can't support older arms. All you need to do, if you have a current new Quantum, all you need to do is update your firmware and you'll be able to connect an 8th axis.
Okay.
So that's a simple online, you just download the newest firmware and it'll install automatically.
And software, if you're using third-party software.
Yeah, there's nothing you need to change.
Nothing
Just,
to change,
just make
okay.
sure you have the latest drivers and again, latest firmware on your arm and you can
And again,
integrate it.
I guess like we said earlier, is the software doesn't know the difference.
Right. Yeah. So as you see, we're getting some really great data.
Yeah.
The laser is capable of capturing really fine details. It'll capture fingerprints, down to 2000s. That's really small.
And you can use the hard probe and the laser scanner at the same, not simultaneously, but at the same time, right? You can take a point measurement and you can go back and do a scan depending
Correct.
what it is you're trying to do. Okay.
Yeah, and that's key because a lot of the laser is line of sight. So if
Okay.
there's anything that you need to capture, for example, that the laser can't necessarily see,
Okay.
there's a lot of different probe extensions and adapters that can help you get into tight spaces where, if your laser can't get in there, you can probe it, keep that data. And that helps a lot in many applications, right?
So this is very cool. So I think we also said that, so the kind of the advantages here of this is with smaller parts, it's more ergonomic,
Yep.
so it's faster, less movement, less operator fatigue. But with larger parts, I think is where you really see the value is
Yeah.
you don't have to hopscotch.
Right.
You don't have to like reach over the top and
Correct.
be a contortionist in order to get to things.
Exactly.
It's just a lot easier. And imagine without having to leapfrog. Leapfrogging hurts accuracy a little bit too, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
on average you can see about 1,000. It depends on how well you're able to tie back in
Okay.
to your data. If you're doing 3D scanning, let's say you move your part, rotate it, whatever you need to do,
Right.
you can do a best fit. Usually in most softwares you can just tie those two scan data together, but there's
Yeah.
also an inaccuracy involved with that process.
Sure. So by eliminating that, you just eliminate another source of
Inaccuracy.
inaccuracy. Okay.
Correct,
All
yeah.
right.
So
very
that's one of the beauties of this system. We really try to focus on maintaining accuracy and reducing the amount of time it takes to inspect your parts. In the manufacturing setting, the inspection process can usually be a bottleneck, right?
Okay.
So this is one of those tools we're giving customers to reduce those bottlenecks and get products out the door as quickly as possible.
Perfect. So this is the 8th axis.
Correct.
That's actually the name of it.
Yep.
8th axis.
8th axis, correct.
Brilliant.
Couldn't have done
Those
better
marketing
myself.
guys. All right. Well, Raphael, thanks for bringing in the 8th axis for us today.
Awesome, thanks for having me.
Well, there you have it. That was Dirk and Raphael Osbun of one of FARO's senior application engineers talking about their brand new 8-axis Quantum ScanArm. What a great demo. That looked great. You guys did a great job presenting it. I hope all of you enjoyed it too. That was really pretty cool.
Very cool.
Yeah. And now in a few minutes, we want to remind you before we get a little bit more into this, we're going to be chatting live with Michelle Edwards, who's FARO's Director of Global Applications Engineering and Training. So we want you to get your questions in now, and it can be questions relating to product research and development, what we can do to encourage more women to take up manufacturing in general, or metrology specifically, or really pretty much anything else. So write us now, again, at qdl@qualitydigest.com. Right there, Dirk's going to get it on live on our stage here, and we can ask you the questions, ask Michelle the questions on air.
And also because Michelle has been with FARO for quite a while, she's also familiar with a lot of FARO equipment. So I guess I would throw in, if you got a specific question, and actually we did have a question come in on the 8-axis.
Yeah.
If you got a question, related maybe to some FARO technology or something, we can probably throw that at Michelle as
sure.
well, because
Yeah.
she's very understands all of FARO's equipment really well.
Yeah,
so
very active in the R&D.
So anyway, on that particular product, like you said, what was really amazing about it, and we talked about it quite a bit during that video, is just that it's such a simple solution. I mean, if you've ever seen anybody use a portable arm, even if it's on a small thing, there's still a lot of, you've got the stationary thing in order to get the arm where you need it. There's a lot of, there's a lot of twisting. So ergonomically, it's not necessarily the easiest thing to use, or it can be fatiguing after a long time. So the idea that you can just kind of sit in one place and simply rotate the object under it is just kind of a no-brainer. But really where it comes into play, I think, as we talked about there, something you have something large like a car door, and in the past you would either have to reach over it or walk behind it, or you would have to leapfrog. You'd have to move the tripod and the arm to the other side in order to make those measurements. So there's somewhat of an accuracy hit on that. Not much, but it's a little bit. And also just tearing down, setting back up, that whole thing is just such a simple solution. It's just a kind of, and also just that it uses existing parts. And also that it isn't like a whole new system. If you have an existing Quantum ScanArm, you can just attach it and firmware update, and any of your software that if you're already using any software, whether it's FARO software or third-party software that already uses the FARO Quantum ARM as its input, it doesn't make any difference. The software is still going to work. So it's such a great little solution just to drop right in. I think it's really a fantastic little product.
Well, so. I think it speaks to what we're kind of talking to here on the show today is innovation. I mean, a lot of times your solutions to your problems you're having don't have to be all that complicated.
Yeah.
I mean, simple things are often the best ways to address problems. And the problem of leapfrogging is one that we've heard of for years.
Sure.
I mean, it's been a known issue for a long time. Again, not just from the ergonomic issue of having to either twist or move, but also the accuracy. There is a slight accuracy hit, and that slight hit matters ultimately. So not having to do that is really pretty important, and this is a really cool solution for doing that. As Dirk mentioned, we first saw it at IMTS in Chicago about a month ago. Everyone out there who's seen it has seen it for the first time there, other than those people at FARO themselves and have been developing it. So pretty cool solution.